Good morning, students. This is Ajahn John, and I am going to correct and edit the essay you can see printed below. The areas highlighted in bold have mistakes which I am going to improve. And don't forget, if you're listening to this on YouTube, you can click on subtitles or transcript and you should be able to see a fairly accurate representation of my talk. So this is a essay question: should universities be academically or vocationally orientated? Let's look at paragraph 1. In the present time is not really relevant. We're talking about the differences between vocational or academic, and this has always been a distinction in education. Whether, for example, you're training to be a carpenter or whether you're learning about history. This is what we mean by academic or vocational. So we can begin. Education can either be orientated to providing knowledge for purely academic purposes, or it can be targeting specific skills and knowledge we need for our job, for example, a doctor or an engineer. The writer has talked about complete degree, bachelor's, master's and doctors, but this is really not relevant because you can have a doctor's, bachelor's or master's in either an academic degree such as history or a vocational degree such as chemistry. So that one sentence should be sufficient for the introduction. Perhaps give an in more depth example. We could talk, for example, about a doctor compared with someone doing a history degree. So, for example, if you're doing a history degree, you may learn about the ancient Vikings and the rise of the British Empire. Whereas if you are studying to be a doctor, you may be learning much more practical stuff like how to stitch up a wound or the right kind of drug to give a sick patient. So paragraph 2, in my opinion, universities should be academically orientated. Now the rest of that sentence is really not clear. I'm not sure what the writer is trying to say. She's talking about complete degree, but this is really not clear, so I'm going to use my own ideas. So let's continue. Should be academically orientated because I think the main purpose of education is to improve people's general knowledge. I think this is probably close to the writer's idea. And the example about BBA again is not really clear because BBA is actually a vocational course because it's aimed at providing knowledge for business administrators, people working in business. So it's not an example to give to support an academic degree. Paragraph 3. In addition, the students will get to know about the wider society, comma, they will make many new friends and connections which will enable them to learn more and improve their social skills. The next sentence, get more knowledge about standard education. Again, that's really not a clear idea. The next sentence, the students will learn ways to solve problems from the teacher who gives examples during the class. Again, that's not really clear because that could apply to both vocational or academic degrees. Probably more likely vocational. And the last sentence, lastly, the students get good work after they complete their degree. Again, that's not clear. This could either apply to academic or vocational degrees. So let's move on to paragraph 4. On the contrary, students who will study vocational courses because they provide specific knowledge, for example, engineers, doctors, psychologists and philosophers. But again here, engineers and doctors are vocational jobs, and yes, I guess psychologist is as well, but not philosophy. I don't think we can say philosophy is a vocational subject. For example, my teacher who used to teach me at university did a degree in philosophy so she could pursue a specific career as a philosophy teacher and philosopher. Next sentence I'm going to change. With this fundamental knowledge, she could go into philosophy at a much deeper level with her students. The last sentence, in addition, these students work in specific career, is repetition. We're already talking about this earlier in the paragraph. Conclusion. In conclusion, vocational education is about learning for a specific career, whereas academic learning is about learning just for the sake of acquiring knowledge. I've changed the last paragraph here because the writer's ideas are not clear. Also, I think incorrect, because she is saying an academic degree is aimed at getting a position from a company, which is actually what a vocational degree would be doing. And again, this is repetition. This is really the introduction, which we have already spoken about. Okay, some problems with this essay. I think the writer has some confusion about the difference between academic learning and vocational. The main idea she should have discussed in this essay is, do we learn just for the sake of acquiring interesting or exciting new knowledge, such as history, or do we need to learn because we hope to use this knowledge to get a job? I think nowadays, with pressure on people and competition for work, we should advocate vocational learning. So that would be paragraph 2 and the main part of the essay. And I would have talked about it something like this. Nowadays it's difficult to get any kind of job. There is so much competition, especially with young people. When you leave university, if you don't have a very relevant degree, you may find yourself working in a 7-Eleven or a factory. I think you really need to have a very specifically career-orientated degree. For example, one of my friends left university last year. He had studied engineering for 4 years, and he was immediately able to get a pretty good job in an international company. He now travels a lot, has a senior position and a very good salary. On the other hand, another one of my friends who studied history is still looking for a job. He has had 1 or 2 temporary positions working in shops and restaurants, working long, hard hours with a very small salary. Every time I see him, he complains to me that he wished he had done a more practical degree. You see how I am using an interesting story here, introducing the past perfect tense, just really with one simple idea why you should study a vocational degree rather than academic. This is the direction the writer should have taken, which would enable her and you to get extremely high marks in essay writing. So, as I always say, don't get too complicated, don't think about too many ideas. try to get a very simple, clear idea of what question the essay is asking, and then follow that. Okay, students, thank you for listening and good luck with your next assignment.